Hi everybody, it's Mark Jones here from the Collab 365 team. And for around about the next hour, I would be honoured if you'd stay with me so I can teach you 6 major reasons why I think you should be using Power BI instead of Excel for all of your reporting and dashboard needs in your company. So the way I've done this, I've obviously come up with the 6 reasons, and the way the webinar is going to work is I will go into each reason, and I've got a pre-recorded video that's highly edited, so they're as short as possible, but also give you as much information in that time. If I was to do them all now live, the webinar would probably be 4 hours long. So I've just been really conscious, and I thought, what's the quickest way for me to do it? So I've pre-recorded those little segments. Once I've been through those reasons, if I've done my job, I will hopefully have you really, really excited, thinking, oh, I need to stop using Excel for some of this reporting. I need to start to think about using Power BI. But I imagine you'll still have a few objections in your mind that are stopping you make that move to Power BI. So things like it's too expensive or it's too complicated to learn. So I want to just smash some of those down. And by the end of the webinar, I really do hope you're in a position, and it's my goal for you to think, right, I'm ready to start learning Power BI. I'm going to get the 60-day trial. I'm going to connect it up to the spreadsheet I've got, and I'm going to do it before and after, and just to get that idea of like, this is how you do it in Power BI, and this is how you do it in Excel. And I'm sure if you do that, you'll think it's such a much better experience, both for you and your end users. So that's my goal, is to get you ready to start learning Power BI. Then, if you can stick around, because I know around about an hour is a long time nowadays, I've got a lovely Power BI beginner's ebook that I will give the link to you at the end of this webinar so you can walk away with that. So if you can stay with me, that's a lovely little thank you for me, because the books, we've had some really good feedback from that. And the books, I really like. It's a fantastic ebook. So I'll give you a copy of that away as well. So let's get started. Let's bring up my slide there. So what the dickens is Power BI anyway? Because I presume most of you will know Excel who are watching this, but some of you might not have even heard of Power BI. So firstly, Power BI it's a reporting tool, as I mentioned already. So it's a reporting tool that allows you to connect to your business data no matter where it is. You can connect to virtually anything, bring that together and create a beautiful interactive dashboard. So that dashboard you can then share securely with members of your team so that they can also get some answers from the data as well. So it's a really, really cool tool that if you add it to your arsenal, is going to give you a lot of information about your company you probably wouldn't know. Way more than you probably have to do in Excel, because obviously in Excel, for us to find information and make meaning of our data, we probably need to create a pivot table, a pivot table, a pivot table, chart. Power BI isn't quite like that, because Power BI allows you to, if you ever heard the concept, slice and dice your data, so you can drill down and then drill across and then go back up. And it's really fantastic. That's showing anomalies in your data or showing where you're doing well as a company. So it's awesome at that. So I think I've covered all the points on this slide. So yes, I mentioned refresh. So one of the key things is if you've got reports out there in the wild that people are viewing daily. So for example, say you've got a board meeting every Monday, it's a sales and marketing board meeting, and you've got your reps in there, you're going to want your data up to date. So you'll hopefully, if your company's doing well, you've had a load of sales the previous week, and you need that data to be up to date. So Power BI's got really cool ways of refreshing reports. So I think that's probably told you as much as I need to do, because you're going to get a lot more information about Power BI via the demos. So I'm not going to go into it too much more detail. But it is worth mentioning, Power BI comes in 3 flavors. Now these aren't an either or, these are all very complementary services. So firstly, you're almost certainly going to download the desktop app. And that's the one thing I do hope you download at the end of this webinar, because like I mentioned, Microsoft are currently offering a 60-day trial, completely free, and you can create some wonderful reports. It's a Windows executable, so it's a desktop Windows app you download, put it onto your machine, and it allows you to create, author your reports and set security roles up, etc., and create models. The Power BI service is an online service that's a cloud service that's part of Microsoft 365 that allows you to publish your reports up so that you and your end users or your report viewers can view those reports. It can do loads of other things. In fact, I'll go into that because I've got a nice slide on it. Do loads of other things like you can share your reports, you can set up refresh schedules, you can secure reports down, and then you can view and manage your reports. And the way I use it as well, because we all use Microsoft Teams, you can actually pin it to your sidebar and add it as an app. So I just look at the Power BI service, and that's where I look at my reports. I go into Teams in the morning, I load up the workspaces, and then I find my report and I view my reports inside of Microsoft Teams. So the Power BI service is something for everybody, whereas the desktop app is something really that the report authors will want to use and download. The other really important app is the Power BI mobile app, and I've got a great demonstration on this because what I did is I've got a data set of information. It's actually Olympic data, so it's a free data set that I've downloaded from an online service, and it's got all of the results of all the Olympics. And I created a dashboard in Excel, so charts in Excel, and I've created a report in Power BI, and I show on my phone, I share the screen on my phone, show what the experience is both in the Microsoft Excel desktop mobile app and also the Power BI mobile app. And by that stage, you're going to absolutely love the Power BI mobile app because it's fantastic, whereas Excel really struggles because Excel really isn't the tool that's built for reporting on a mobile phone, whereas Power BI supports it as a first-class citizen. So definitely stick around for that demo because I not only show you what it looks like on my phone, but I also show you how to author using mobile layout in a Power BI report, the experience, so it's absolutely beautiful on your phone. And as you can see on the slide, you can do some really cool things with it, which I'll go through. So let's get started. So what are the 6 reasons in this massive standoff between Excel and Power BI for reporting? So first off, and I've got, like I mentioned, I've got a demonstration of each of these, so I won't bomb through them too in depth here. Interaction. So by interaction, I mean which one's best at creating interactive reports. So imagine you've got a report, you've published it out, you've got your sales manager on there, and he needs to interact with the report. He needs to slice and dice the data, he needs to drill in, he needs to filter, he needs to go into sub-reports. Which one's the most interactive? Then speed and size. So this is quite important because if you've ever got a data set that's beyond 250,000 rows, and in fact the example I did do, the Olympics data, is 270,000 rows, you probably don't want to think about using Excel too much for that because it's going to start to struggle. And in fact, Excel has an upper limit of 1 million and something rows, whereas Power BI, I've got a fantastic demonstration coming up for that because I do a demonstration of it showing millions of rows and show you how fast that is. It's stunning how fast it is. Security, it's kind of boring for some people, but it is really important because you need to be able to make sure that when you're sharing your reports, that certain roles can't see certain things. So for example, if you are sharing company salary information in a big fat spreadsheet and that gets out in the wild, that's a bit of a disaster for your company because some companies don't like salaries to be shared. Power BI, on the other hand, allows you to do row level security. So I've got another great demo coming up and which shows you how to do that. Sharing, as I mentioned previously, there's no point having a report if it's just for you. Nearly every report you ever create probably needs to be seen by a separate pair of eyeballs, and in most cases, many eyeballs. So you need many ways to be able to share that report and embed it in other services. So I compare and contrast the two. That's a great demo. Then mobile, as I've just mentioned previously, I won't go into that too much more now, but mobile is really important nowadays. You've got sales reps, you've got people that are on the road all the time. You've got people like myself that never really switch off and are always looking at the latest stats. I've always got Power BI going on here just to look at the Cloud 365 data. So I've got a demonstration on that. And then refreshing. So it's really important that you get your latest version of your data into your reports. So I discuss and show what the options are in Power BI for that. I don't go too heavily into Excel because there isn't really many options to refresh in Excel apart from if you've got data connection, you can click refresh. So yeah, there's a good segment on that one as well. So without further ado, let's get in. As I promised, there isn't many slides here. These are all kind of interactive demos. So the first one we're going to tackle is how to create an interactive report in Power BI. So let's get stuck in. Right, so let's now take a look at how well Power BI can create interactive reports really quickly. And so part of this, I'm going to show you a report I've part created, and I'm just going to finish it off with some obvious aspects that are missing. And then I just want to show you how you do the same kind of thing in Excel and why I think it's a bit restricted. Obviously, these are my personal opinions. You may have a different view on it, but I personally think that Power BI is much easier to create visualizations, and it's also more flexible. You can do more with it than you can in Excel. So let's get started. Just as a refresher, I'm using the same Olympic spreadsheet as before. So what I've done is I've got an open source data set, and I've got a list of all the athletes that have taken part in the Olympics since 1900. Let's get to the report I've created for you. So what I've done here is I've created a report. It's a well, I would like to call it a dashboard, but effectively inside of Power BI terms, it's a report. And what I've got here is the average age by sport. So this is going to show that something called rock had the oldest people on average taking part in it. Now, if I want to go and look at the average weight by sport, as you would expect, tug of war is the event that's got the heaviest people in, and that's obviously very apparent because the heavier you are, the harder it is to pull you, etc. But what would be really nice on here is to also show the average height. Now, if you remember, we've got height here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create let's go for a stacked column chart. I'm going to drag that on, and I'm just going to position that there. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put sport on the one axis, and then I'd like to put height on the other. And then that height actually by default will just be summing it. So obviously you can see the average height is about 6 meters. So what we need to do is the total height, it's summed it. So what I'm going to do is pick average. So as you can see there, from basketball is the highest, and then the 10th is swimming. But what I'd like to do is create another of these data tables. Now there's two ways of doing this. Well, there's probably multiple ways, but there's two ways that are very easy. One is I can copy this and change the chart type, or I can just drop another one on. So what I'll do is I'll unselect that, and I'll pop that on there, and I will do exactly the same. I'm going to pick sport, and I'm going to pick height, and I'm going to go to the height again, and I'm going to go to average. And there you can see that that's alphabetically sorted now. So all I've got to do now is order that, and you can see basketball is top, and then the lowest is gymnastics. So from the time the gymnastics has been, from the time the Olympics have been going since 1900, the shortest people to take part on average are the gymnasts, which is cool. So the other thing I've done here is I've added two filters. Sorry, they're called slicers, but you might know them in Excel as filters. So what I've done is I've created a filter for medal and a filter for sex. So what's really nice, I've had to do nothing else at all. In fact, you've just seen me drop this on. If I click on bronze now, everything's changed. So now I know that still basketball is the top for the people that have got bronze medalists. Bobsleigh actually has changed. So for those that got bronze medalists, the average weight is 90 kilograms, and that's the highest of all the events, which is quite surprising. And you can do the same. You can have multiple filters. So let's have a look by male. So that's now multiple filters. So this is all the males that got bronze, and you can see all these values changing, which is really cool. Right, so the next thing you may want to do inside of this chart is you might want to go, well, actually, I'd like to be able to look at polo more in depth. So what I've done is I've created another report here just by clicking the plus there. I've dropped some visualizations on it. And by default, what it's done is this is a card. So this is a card visualization I've put on, which just shows the sport. And you can see this is for an individual sport. But what would be really nice, actually, is to be able to drill into this from this report. So if you go here and then right click, there's no there's no way actually of drilling into that report. Now, the way you do that is really simple. So you go here and you see this area here is really easy to miss, by the way. If you go here, add drill through fields here. So now what I can do is I can put sport in. Whoops a daisy. I can drag sport into there. And then that's now told Power BI that this report is actually something that's, I'm just going to delete that, is something that can be drilled through to. So now if we go to here, what I can do, let's pick something we've got a lot of data for. Let's have a look at sport. So now you've got this drill through. And if you look, I call it sport detail there. So let's drill through to sport detail for polo. And you can see already, so that's now drilled in. So the average age for polo only over the years from the 1900s, and the average height, the average weight. So polo isn't one of these sports that's been going on for ages. So let's go back. So I need to press Control and back. Sorry, I'm on a Mac. And let's go back. Let's find something like athletics is more interesting. So what I'll do is I'll sort this by athletics. All right, let's drill to that. So another good point here, anywhere we're using the sport field, so all of these here, is now able to drill through to that new reporting table. In we go, athletics. So this is really good. So athletics is pretty much every single year. In fact, I can't imagine Olympics where it hasn't been there. You can see that males have taken up 69.8% of the competitors. We also can see the most successful in athletics. Count of medals. And the average age by year is very interesting. So people are getting older that are taking part, which is really interesting. So people are getting shorter, older, and lighter. So maybe that's something we need to be looking at in the Olympics going forward. So that's a good example. This will also maintain all the filters that you place on the other one, but that's also something you could control. So that's Power BI. That's a whistle-stop tour of how easily it is to create it. Now, literally, this took me 3 minutes to create. Just drag, drop. Add the slices, add that. It didn't take long at all. Excel, what you need to do in Excel, we've got this data sheet here. You have to go here and you have to create pivot tables for every type of chart you want to create. So what I've done here is I've created the same pivot table. One of the striking things over Power BI immediately is that, in fact, I've got another version here, is that in order to get this working properly, so you could filter it down by bronze, gold, silver, it works really nice, but you've got to create these slices and put them on the page. I can't then go and click on any of these here. So this chart's not clickable. That data row is not filterable there. I mean, you possibly could do this with some VBA, which probably wouldn't work in the online version. But it's not out of the box. It's not possible at all. So I can't go and filter this and say, right, I want to be able to filter the average age by basketball. You'd have to have filters at the top here. So I could probably go here and select all and pick baseball. Okay. But that only affects this side of it. These filters, to connect them up, you have to go the extra mile. You have to do report connections and set them all up that way. There's no way actually of clicking on baseball there and going into the another spreadsheet, or sorry, a worksheet that's all about baseball like I can in Power BI. So I believe that the filtering and slicing capabilities, although you can get similar effects in Excel, it just isn't as good out of the box. And it also isn't as fast either. So as soon as you get to large data sets, it will start to slow down. So for that reason, I think Power BI is better because you can get more interaction by default up front. And then also we need to think about when we actually take the spreadsheet and put it online, we need to think about where we can share it to, which I'm going to cover in another video as well. So I do believe all in all that Power BI, just for the interactivity of the reports, is a better choice. Anyway, hope that helps. Right, welcome back. So now we've just covered interactive reports. Now it's time to turn our focus on to how well does Power BI deal with very large data sets. So in this demonstration, I've got a data set of around about 6 to 7 million rows, and you're going to be blown away how fast this is. So I'm not going to talk too much more about it. So let's get straight into the demo. So one of the other direct comparisons we can do between Power BI and Microsoft Excel is when it comes to performance and the size of data it can handle. So what I've done is I've done a good search on the internet to try to find a data set that's massive, that's also easy for us all to understand. And so there's this fantastic site called Kaggle that's got loads of open source data sets, and I found one here that's been supplied by Nickel Nayak, and it's got 5 million song lyrics. It's a CSV download. It's 9.2 gig, and there's 5 million rows in here, and the type of information in here is title, tag, the artist, how many views it's had, features, lyrics, and then it's obviously got a unique ID as well. So I've downloaded that, and just before I recorded this, I've downloaded and extracted it onto my hard drive. So in downloads here, you've got DS2. This is it. I'm trying to open it in Excel, and that's been running for quite a while. It's way too big. It's going to kill the memory, and it's not going to open it. And the reason for that is, one, Excel doesn't handle really large data sets, and it's also limited at 1 million. So it struggled with that. So Excel's a big no-no. We can't actually do anything with that in Excel. And even if it was 1 million, trust me, it's going to be so slow. So the next part is, can Power BI handle 5 million rows? So the way we do it is we get the CSV option. Then we scroll to downloads, DS2, open it up. So Power BI itself is going to take a long time to bring this data in. So it gives you a preview here. So you've got, as we expect, the ID, the lyrics, the features, the views, etc. And I'm going to go load that. And now what it'll do is it will take a long time to load it, because what it's doing is it's bringing it into its internal database, compressing it and making it ultra fast. So that's going to take ages. So I'm going to pause the video now, because obviously, as we saw, it's 8.9 gig and it's bringing it in not brilliantly. So that's probably going to take about 10 minutes. So I'll pause this and I'll see you right back when that's loaded in. Right, welcome back. That import took around about 30 minutes to do. So it took a little longer than I thought, but it's got 5.9 million rows to look at. So this is the screen that you land up on after the import's finished. And just to prove the data's in, we have 5,900,000 odd rows in here. And the information we've pulled in, just to refresh our memories, we've got the artist, features, not really sure what that is. We've got an ID, we've got the lyrics for the song, we've got a tag, so that's basically whether it's hip hop or pop, title of the song, number of views, and then the year the song was released. So looking at that, one of the things we probably want to see is the most popular artist. So let's drop a stack bar chart on. Let's make it big. Let's pop the artist in, and then let's pop the views in. So there you go. That's nearly 6 million rows, and Power BI's done it just like that, which is incredible. Does it get slower? Actually, we had another one on. Let's pop this one on here, and let's have a look at the most popular song title. So let's go title, views. No, really fast, which is amazing. So one thing we might want to do is let's see if it slows down with slicers. So one of the things possibly we'd want to do would be add a slicer on for tag. Let's just make that horizontal so it's nice and tidy. There we go. Drop these down here. Right, let's see if filtering this is slow. Wrap. No, pretty quick. Pop. Pretty quick. So that's rapid. Really cool. What about if we add another slicer on for year? Whoops. Yeah. Let's pop that one in. There we go. So for some reason, some of the songs don't. I've noticed, I looked at the data earlier, some of the songs don't have actually a year, so they default it to 1. So we want to look at everybody after like 19, gosh, it's easy to type it, isn't it? 1960. There we go. So the most popular artist is actually the Beatles. Now, I guess the reason for that is that Drake's in here, but Drake is the most popular artist. But when you actually incorporate year, actually, no, ignore me. It's just because I've got that selected. So Drake is still the most popular artist between 1960. So if you want to go, let's try and pull that back and do like 19. Who's the biggest artist in 1970? Let's see if that slows it up. Yeah, so 1960 to 1970, definitely into the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, Bob Dylan, obviously, as you'd expect. The most popular song, Fly Me to the Moon, which I think is a Frank number. Yesterday's the Beatles, Let It Be. So, yeah, it all looks good. And it's, as I'm sure you agree, it's lightning fast, which I'm absolutely blown away with. So just a reminder, that's 5.9 million rows. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to try and publish this up to the Power BI service. Now, I'm on the Power BI Pro license, and so that means that I can only store 1 gig of data. Now, this data set is running around about 8 gig. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm going to upgrade my license to the Power Premium per user license, which is $20 a month or £20 a month. I need to look. So I'll just pause the video, upgrade that. Now let's see what this does if I go and put the whole lot into the Power BI service. Does it slow it down? Is it good? What happens if other users need to access it? So I shall see you back in the next part of the video. Okay, welcome back. So I've just published that Power BI report into the Power BI online service, and now I'm viewing it inside of Microsoft Teams. So let's go to my workspace where I actually uploaded it to. And it was obviously about lyrics, and I called it lyrics. So let's go and have a look. Is it fast? So one thing I did before I published it, I forgot to expand these filters out. So let's expand them out, and you can see that is absolutely lightning. Let's do the same query as before, 1970 to 1980. In fact, it was 1960 to 1970, but never mind. Quite interesting. Queen were the #1 band. And you can see Bohemian Rhapsody was the #1 tune. And what's kind of nice, if you click on the actual song, then it shows you what proportion of all of Queen's hits that made up. So Bohemian Rhapsody was massive for them, which is brilliant. So as you can see, that is lost none of its speed whatsoever. If anything, it's faster. And because it's in the Power BI Online service, I've got all the beauties of being able to share it into PowerPoint, export it to PDF, analyze it in Excel, although that probably would struggle because there's so many rows. I can share it wider, so I can send a link to the team. And then, of course, I can go and embed it in places. So SharePoint Online, I can even put it on a WordPress site if I wanted to. So there's plenty of options there for me to do that. Now I've got it into the service, and it'll also be available on my phone, which is just brilliant. And it'll be lightning quick on the phone as well, because it's not downloading the entire amount of data, which is fantastic. Anyway, hope that proves that Power BI is really a very, very cool tool when it comes to large data sets that Excel can't handle. Welcome back, and I hope you're suitably impressed by the performance that Power BI can give you with millions of rows worth of data. So the next demonstration I wanted to show you is around about mobile reports. So in this one, it was crucial I actually pre-recorded it because it was really hard, because it required me to show the desktop version and also the mobile app of Excel, the mobile app of Power BI. So I'm just going to get straight into it, hand over to my pre-recorded self, and hopefully you'll love the mobile app that Power BI offers. Right, Power BI and Microsoft Excel both have mobile apps that you can download in the Play Store and the iOS App Store. So which one is the best for visualizing reporting data? So I'm not talking about editing spreadsheets here. I'm on about purely, you've got some business data that you'd like to show in a graph and a chart with a pivot table. Which one is best for a mobile user? Because mobile users, really, you've got to think about traveling salesmen, for instance, or delivery people that need to be able to see key information. So what I've done here is I've got the same athletics the same Olympic spreadsheet that we've had throughout all of these demonstrations. And you remember in the previous one, I created a nice little report in Excel that had a couple of visualizations and a couple of pivot tables. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to open this up on my phone. I'm going to look down for a while because I'm actually looking at my phone. It's called athletes_events2. I'm going to click that. Hopefully it'll open. So this is obviously the Excel client application. So as you can see, it renders, that's nice, but the experience isn't really brilliant for just a reporting user. So you can see it, but the problem is you can't really see it. So I haven't got my glasses on, I should have glasses, and I literally can't read any of that. So what you have to do is you have to pinch and zoom and move it down so you could see it there, and I could drag across and I can scroll in there. I can probably click on filters if I'm lucky. Yep, I can click on those. Let's sort it by sport. Okay, sport, and close that filter down so it's now sorted by sport. And then I've got these filters over here. And for the life of me, I can't work out how you click them on mobile. So you have to go, first off, if I was a mobile user anyway, you probably wouldn't even see those filters because they're off the screen. So what you'd probably find yourself having to do is to copy the spreadsheet, copy all of the pivot tables, all the pivot charts, and put them onto another worksheet, which was, I don't know, average age mobile view. And you'd probably just have them like that kind of thing and show them the full width of the screen so you can actually see. And this is another one of the problems you get with Excel. As you can see, as I'm trying to pinch and zoom, which you'd have to do to be able to see the data, I'm actually changing the underlying data here, and it's very easy to make a mistake. And because obviously Excel is meant to be for data entry, that's its the meat and veg of Excel is to be able to enter data into a spreadsheet. So when it comes to charting, although the mobile app does do a decent job, it's not brilliant. And to be honest, if you gave this to a travelling salesman in your company, they're going to be very frustrated. And I imagine after no time, they're probably going to end up like changing the data, saving it away, and then screwing up the whole visualization, which is not what we want them to do. Right. So let's go and have a look at Power BI. I've got this athletes webinar. Let's open that up. Here we go. Let's close that. And let's go and have a look at the main dashboard. So you can see this is beautiful. That's full width. I can easily see all of that. There's the data. I can also filter, which is really nice. So I can filter on there, cross country, which obviously filters everything. And then remember we built the drill through capabilities. So we can also, I'm not going to drill through on that because that's not going to be much data. Let's pick rowing, because I think rowing's been at the Olympics for so long, it should have some good data. So let's go and have a look at the sport detail for rowing. And there you go. That's beautiful too. We can see we're in rowing. We can see what the average age is over time. It's all very interactive. I'm not disturbing the display at all for anything. That's the remainder. You can still see the tables there. So it's beautiful. And you can also expand the screen. You can do some other cool stuff like you can share this out. So you could share an image of that out if you wanted to. You could obviously refresh it, favorite it, so it stores in your Power BI dashboard and you log in, search through it. You can do other things like comments on here, get the conversation started, collaborate with colleagues, so you can mention people on this particular report. So this is all set up. You can check your filters, annotate, invite people, look at your pages. It's all set up for people that want to be able to visualize and see your data. And that is the real beauty of Power BI dashboard. And in fact, we've got a few reports in the company that I'm always opening up Power BI dashboard to have a look at them. It's wonderful. So I think hands down, if it was a war against which is best, Excel or Power BI, visualizing data, you're going to have to go for Power BI. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch on to back into my Power BI desktop, and I'll be back. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is to create a mobile view of your reporting data. So be with you in a sec. Right, welcome back. So hopefully you can now see my desktop, and I just want to show you how easy it is to create a mobile view of your Power BI dashboard. This is the dashboard that I've just been showing you on my phone. So it's the same, exactly the same visualizations. It's just on the phone. They were all, instead of going across, they've been navigated down, so in portrait mode. And the way you do it, it's worth saying you don't get it for free. So you don't just access this exact same dashboard on your phone and it suddenly just all looks beautiful, because obviously Power BI wouldn't know what you actually wanted to show, because some of the reports you might not want to show on there, like the tables don't render brilliantly. So all you do is you go on your report. So I'm in a report here, and you click on mobile view, and then what the nice part of this is, it gives you all of the visualizations that were available inside of the desktop view. So just unclick that again. So remember, I've got one called average height by sport, and I go back to mobile view. Now, if I want to show, because the only one I've not put on, because I've got the average age, I've got the average weight, but I don't have the average height. So let's pop the average height on. Let's just drag him down here. Position him up like so. That's nice. I really like it. You get this nice grid view, so you know your spacing's all pretty nice as well. Scroll that down. We want him to be full width. We want him to be a bit longer because he's a table of information. And you see that's resized nicely, which is beautiful. And that really is, you can add your filters on and your slicers on if you want to. But if not, you can obviously just click on those like I showed you. They're all interactive. So in the phone, I can tap on beach volleyball and it'll filter all of the other data visualizations to be beach volleyball. So really easy. And there is one more thing worth mentioning. You can actually get some more fine grain control over these, what you can choose to do on each visualization. There's plenty of documentation out there about how you use all these, but you can do it on a per mobile basis. So welcome back. We're now halfway through going through the 6 reasons. The next one up is report sharing. So this is all a discussion about why I think Power BI is much better at Excel at sharing your data and your reports out with your company, and even wider than that. Just as a little teaser, check this out. So I'm in Power BI. I'm in PowerPoint. There's too many powers. I'm in PowerPoint, and this is an embedded Power BI dashboard that I've just chucked straight into PowerPoint, and it's live. So you can see I can drill through, I can do everything I wanted to do. So how cool would this be to take to your next board meeting or next team meeting, to be able to like filter and slice your data without even leaving Power BI? Now, I think that's absolutely gorgeous, and I can see 1,000,001 reasons for that. So without further ado, let's get stuck into how you would do this, and also go through some of the other sharing options that you can do with Power BI. So let's get started. Right, so let's take a look at SharePoint. Let's imagine we've just created our most beautiful reporting dashboard, and it's got staff information on or salary information, and we want to be able to share that in a plethora of ways in various tools that Microsoft already have. So for example, you might have a sprint burn down chart that you'd like your team in Microsoft Teams to be able to view on a tab so they can see the velocity of the team. You might have some kind of partner pricing chart that you want to share with partners external to Microsoft, your Microsoft tenant. And so you potentially want to send that as a PDF over to them, because you don't want to expose the entire report and dashboard with them. You might have an intranet where you'd like to store, you've done a particular survey for all the staff, and you've brought the survey information from Microsoft Forms into Power BI, and you'd like to be able to present the results of that straight on your homepage for your intranet. So there's quite a few ways out there that you'd want to be able to share the information. Another one is the one I absolutely adore, because now you can actually embed your live data from Power BI, so you can put a report into a PowerPoint presentation. Now, nearly every PowerPoint presentation I've seen probably has some kind of graph or metric in there to share with the people that want to view that PowerPoint. And very often what we'd have to do is we'd probably take a screenshot, or we may recreate the graph inside of PowerPoint. But now you don't need to do that. You can just embed the thing right side in Power BI. Because we've also been looking at Excel, we probably need to have a think about what's the options of Excel, because we're obviously, this whole series of videos I'm doing is basically trying to analyze whether Power BI is a better reporting solution than using the same kind of features within Excel. So let's just have a very quick think about Excel. Excel has been around for years. It's all done saved as an XLS file. And historically, what we generally do as a company is we share that Excel spreadsheet out to users. We either email the file, so you create several copies of it, and you could also, nowadays, you can store it into OneDrive or SharePoint, and it's viewable in Excel online. But those really are the only ways you can share that information. And if you watch my security video, you realize actually it's not that secure, because as soon as you've got multiple copies of Excel pushed around all across many inboxes or across many hard drives, it becomes hard to manage and you can't really control who accesses the data. So Excel isn't really something that you'd probably want to embed inside other things. It's not really meant for that purpose, whereas Power BI was built with that as one of its main purposes for being in existence. So what I want to do now is I just want to show you quickly some of the options you get with Power BI to do with sharing. So I'm going to cover Power BI, how you share it in Teams, how you view it from the Power BI service, how you embed it inside a SharePoint, how you create a PDF, and a couple of other goodies along the way. So, excuse me, let's get started. So this is the Olympics dashboard report that I've been mentioning so often throughout this presentation. This effectively is all the athletes from 1900 to 2000, all the results. So we've got information about what sport they took in, what medal they got, etc. I've already published this by going to File, Publish. I've published it to the Power BI service. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink a coffee. Got a frog in my throat. I've published that to the Power BI service, and that is now viewable. If we go here, and I'm in the Power BI service, if I go to my workspaces, so remember you always publish your report into a workspace, and if I go into here and I look at my reporting dashboard, so what you get there is you've got the individual reports in, and this is exactly the same, so it's all interactive. Right, so just imagine now though, you want to put that into SharePoint. You want to embed this entire thing into a SharePoint site. So what we've got here is we've got this thing called a sandpit, which is just the name of our SharePoint where we play and do videos like this. Let's go and create a new page. Now, I'm not going to make this beautiful. I'm just going to go blank because I just want to show the embed capabilities. But obviously, if this was an intranet page and you had web part regions on there, then you just embed it into one of them. So the way you embed Power BI is you add a web part. So let's go and add a web part here. Frequently used, Power BI. And then you just click add a report. Then you need the report link here. Now the way to get that, the experience is actually easier in Teams because it gives you the ability to go and pick your workspace and pick your report. SharePoint web part doesn't really have that yet, so you can't find anything. So the easiest way to do it is if you go into the Power BI service and you go File and you go Embed Report, pick SharePoint Online, and then you get this lovely long URL, which is actually a link to the entire report. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to paste that into there, and I'm going to press enter. And there you go. That's gone away. It's queried the Power BI report, and now you can pick the actual report you want to put on. So that is that. If you wanted to, obviously, if you wanted to think about, so maybe you wanted to put just that chart in the sidebar of your SharePoint Internet, because that doesn't look the best, obviously, because I've put the entire thing on. You can hide these as well to make it look a bit more minimal, but it's still too wide. You might, in many cases, just want to do that. So the advice there really is you could just create another report just with that one visualization on, and then you'd pick the page name there. So you'd have a new page, which is just purely for SharePoint. You might want to make that hidden. So you can go into the dashboard here and you see that little eye there, that's hidden. So when people view it in other sources, not the actual Power BI desktop, you won't be able to see that page. So you could do it that way. But effectively, that's the report inside of SharePoint, which is really cool. Next up, imagine we want to put this into Microsoft Teams. So what we could do there, I've got a team here called Club 365 Sandpit, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to pick Power BI, which is that one. And you'll see that the experience is a bit better in Teams because they guide you more. So there's my workspace. There's my athletes webinar. I'm going to click save and voila. If the people in your team have access to this, so if you've shared it, if you shared the report so they can see it and they do have a license, they'll be able to see this as well. So that's a really nice, easy way for your team to be able to see your Power BI reports. And as with everything, they're all interactive as before. You get the full experience of Power BI, which is brilliant. And the other way you might want to share your information is in PowerPoint. Now, this is actually my favorite. So imagine you've got a board meeting tomorrow and it's with all of the execs and you're going to show off the latest sales data for your region. Now, if it's tomorrow, currently the only options you really have is you can take a screenshot of the charts and you can embed them in PowerPoint, and hopefully that data is going to be good enough. But obviously you're making so many sales because you're the best sales rep in the world that by tomorrow your sales could be even better. And so what you can do is you can embed Power BI straight into PowerPoint. And that also gives us the added advantage because you'll get the inevitable questions when you're doing your presentation. It's like, Mark, why are the sales so great in Paris when they're not so good in Berlin? And you can start to answer those questions live in that presentation by using the interactivity of Power BI, which is awesome. So how do we do that? It's actually really easy nowadays. So all we need to do, let's go and create a completely new blank PowerPoint presentation. And let's go blank presentation. And let's just create a new full page. And I'm going to pick the insert option and pick Power BI. Right, so now what that's going to do, that's now asking us for a report URL. Now, how do you go and get that? Well, it's really simple. You go back to the Power BI service. So I'm in app.power BI and I'm in my workspace. And then all you do is you go export. So it's not under the file menu like the SharePoint was. It's export here, embed, excuse me, live data. Copy that, go back to here, paste that in, insert that, and voila, you've got your data in there, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And obviously once the data's in, it's all interactive as well. So once you get those questions I mentioned you're probably going to get, you're going to be able to analyze your data and give the exec team the answers they need during that presentation because you've got the full experience of all your data in the reports in your presentation, which I absolutely love. There is other options as well where you can, if you've got like a WordPress site or a public facing site, you can go and embed, if it's turned on in your tenant that is, you can go and embed the report so it's anonymously accessible, but there is a couple of caveats. One, you have to have no security on it, so no row level security. And two, that means that anybody in the world, if they know that URL, can get to your Power BI report. So that's the only caveat. The one last thing I do want to show you, if you wanted to do this, this is really, really cool. So if we go back to here, cancel that. This subscribe, now this is where it definitely differs from Excel because this is really cool. So what you can do is you, as an end user, you can subscribe to get regular reports via email from Power BI. Now, the way you do it is you literally just create a add new subscription. You give it a name for your email, obviously an optional title, and then you give it a list of email addresses that are going to be emailed this report at 9:45 a.m. Obviously, you can change the time, you can set an end date, etc. And then I think I might have a copy of one of those that's just popped in. So let's have a look. Let's go to office.com and let's bring up Outlook. There might be an email in here that's one I've just got in. Yeah, here we go. There you go. So that's what it looks like. That's an image. But you can, obviously you get a snapshot of the actual report there, and you can also click and go straight to the report. So that's quite good for, like busy people that can't be bothered looking in here all the time, or maybe they're remote workers, but they need to be able to see their sales data for their region, for example. So that's really cool. So I think in summary, you can see that one of the things that Microsoft have built into Power BI is that they've really, really thought long and hard about sharing. I've not even shown you some of the other options. Like if you're a developer, you can embed your Power BI charts into your applications. There's loads of ways to share. And I think that's such an important thing to do when you're talking about MI data, because so often that data is important for people, not just yourself, but everybody else. And if you roll that sharing in with the built-in security, I think that's a way more robust way to share business information with end users than Excel, where you have to give the data as well. So hopefully that's helped, and hopefully you're excited about sharing your Power BI reports. So how cool was that? I hope your mind is now bustling with ideas about how you can share your next Power BI report. Our next topic is around reporting security. It isn't the most exciting of topics, but it is one of the most essential, because the minute your data gets into the wrong hands and is seen by the wrong people is the minute you've got a big crisis going at your company. So we do need to cover this. It's not the world's longest demo, but it does give you some really good ideas about what's available in Excel, which isn't actually much, versus what's available in Power BI, which is actually really, really granular and very cool. So let's get started and let's watch the pre-recorded video. Right, now it's time to talk security. Which is the best, Power BI or Microsoft Excel? Before we get into that, let's just have a think about what type of security most companies want. So imagine you have a data set that's got all the salary information for all of the employees in the company. Most companies would not want everybody else to see that. There are some companies out there that are very transparent and do want that to be shown, but most companies don't want to show salary information. So that's, when you think about that, there's two levels. First off, one, can I get into the file first off? And then two, if I can get in, can I only see the data that's pertinent to me? So in our salaries example, if a line manager is able to access an Excel file, then ideally we only want him to be able to see his own staff's information. So what we normally have to do in Excel, we probably have to we have a master staff's salary spreadsheet that usually HR or the top level board management will have access to. And then you need to create a subsection of that just for that line manager's salary information, create another one and give him that file. So you'll end up with one Excel with a sub Excel for every single line manager in the company, which is a pain. And the reason we're having to do that, there is currently no way in Excel to do what they call row level security. So the options in Excel, you can basically store the file, the actual whole XLS, into somewhere secure like SharePoint or OneDrive, and then you can assign an individual user to access it, read it, edit, update it. Or you can put them into groups, and then you can say that group can read, edit, update it. And then the other option is you've got something called password protect. Now I believe password protect was put in because historically there's a whole culture that's been born out of the fact that Excel's years old. People love to share Excel files. So they're emailed every day. They're stored on network drives. They're unsecure in SharePoint, and people are just used to opening Excel and getting the data. And so I think password protect was put there just to give another level of security. But as I mentioned, there is no way to actually secure an Excel file down. So imagine we've got this visualization here, it's the one we used earlier, and we wanted to be able to show this chart to somebody, and you wanted to give all the filters. So you just want to show that report information. Well, in Excel, you kind of haven't got any options. You're going to have to share this spreadsheet, which means they can get to everything. And if they can get to everything, they can update the data. They can see data that shouldn't be pertinent to them. The only option you really have with Excel is to store the spreadsheet in another location with the data in, and then actually data import it. So create a data connection that brings it across. But in many times, you probably will have the user that's viewing it will have access to the underlying data set. And it's, to be honest, that's quite painful to do. So that's really your options in Excel. It's limited. It's kind of like if you've got the keys to the front door, you're going to get in. And once you're in, you can do what you want. So Power BI, on the other hand, is more robust. So first off, Power BI has the option of this thing. It's got this concept of a workspace. Now, a workspace is something that sits in the Power BI service, which is a workspace can contain one or more reports and datasets in there. And first off, if you don't have access to the workspace, you ain't going to be able to get to any of the reports within it. So that's your first level of security. That's like your keys in the door. So let's just take a look as an example. So I've got Microsoft Teams loaded here, the desktop application. And in here, I'm logged on as the Club Service account. And you'll see what I've done is I've pinned the Power BI application to Teams, which I strongly recommend you do, by the way. And if you click on Workspaces, you can see I've created a workspace called Power BI Demo. And in there, I've got my athletes webinar. So this is the Power BI dashboard I've been showing you. Here, this is the actual report I've been showing. And I've published this report. And the way I got this report in is I went publish and I picked publish to Power BI, save. So save the report, obviously. And then I picked my Power BI demo because that's the workspace I've created in the cloud using the Power BI service to store my reports, which is really cool because it means that you don't have to send instances of the Power BI file to all the staff like you do with Excel. They just, as long as they can get to the Power BI service and they've got access, they'll be able to view your reports, which is lovely. So in this browser, I've got Teams running. So it's in the web browser. I'm logged in as myself. So Mark Jones, that's my beautiful face there. And if you look in Workspaces here, I don't have access to Power BI Demo. So I can't get to the report that's been published by the Club Service user. So how do I fix that? Well, very, very easily. So I go back to the Teams desktop, logged in as the Club Service account. And all I've got to do, because I'm in the workspace, which is Power BI Demo, all I've got to do is click on the access, and then I've got to invite myself. So let's go and invite that account, which is the other one I'm logged in as, and I want him to be a viewer. Add that. Boom. So now, if I go back to here, logged in as myself, let's just give this a refresh. It might take a little bit of time. I've seen this take a few minutes, so hopefully it will work for this webinar. Let's have a look. Here we go. She's loading, workspace. Yes, I've got it, brilliant. So now I've got access to the report because the service account's given me access. So in I go, and voila, I can now look at the reports. I can filter them. I can drill through as well, so I can do everything in the report, but I can't get to the data underneath, which is really neat. Very, very neat. So the second challenge we have as companies is we need to be able to lock down the data so that certain people can only see certain parts of the information. And the way you do that in Power BI is you have this concept of roles. So here we go. So a role is, by default, everybody's can see everything, which is currently that Mark Jones account here can see everything. So if I go back here and go back, you can see that I can see absolutely everything. And let's order this by sport. This is going to be something I want to show you. I need to have one that shows you football. Right, there's football, because this is going to make sense in a second. So you can see now I've got football showing for me. So I can see that the average height of a football team is 170 over the course of the Olympics for people that got bronze medals who were female. So to go back here, what I've done is I've created a swimming and football manager. Bit of a contrived, silly example, but imagine you've got a user where you only want them to be able to see data set that's filtered down to swimming and football for the sport. So I've created one, I've saved it. Now, all we need to do is go and put me into that. So the service account is going to put Mark into that role. And the way I do that is you go onto here, you go onto security, and then you end up with the roles. So once you publish your Power BI report to this Power BI service, these roles become available. So let's go and add me in here. Add. Save. So now I'm in that role, and that role equates to a DAX query. So just as a refresher, this is a DAX expression, so you can get pretty complex with these and you can actually nest them, etc. So this is a DAX expression. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's pretty powerful. And if that expression evaluates to true for me and I'm in that role, I will only be able to see swimming and football. So let's just see if that's worked. Let's have a look at what that's done to my report. Let's refresh this. Reset the filters. It takes a while. Let's just refresh the entire thing. Fine, let's give that a bit of a go. Come on, wiki Power BI. Let's open the report again. I can see everything, so I've obviously done something incorrect. Maybe I'm pinpointing here as well. I'm in both roles. So all I need to do is get myself out of there. That's a good little test, actually. Save that. Back in here. Refresh this. That's the problem there, is because I was in both roles where I just need to be in the one. So hopefully now you're going to see a filtered down Power BI report that's just for swimming and football. There you go. Perfect. So that's really powerful. I'm sure you agree. And I've literally got no way of getting back to the other data. So I can't go and see cycling. I can't see athletics or anything. I've just filtered. So in my salaries example, you might have employees down here, salaries on as the x-axis. And that's all I could see. I wouldn't get to see everybody else's salary information. So Power BI is pretty cool like that. So it allows you to do, just as recap, it allows you to secure access at the workspace level, but also in addition to that, do row level security. So I hope that gives you a good idea of why I think Power BI is better in this case than Excel, because it gives you that row level security and it's very flexible. And in addition to that, I can't really get to the data like I can when I've got access to Excel, and I can't change the data, I can't modify the data. I can only see what the report creator wants me to see, which I think is very powerful. So welcome back. I hope you now have the confidence that you can actually make really, really secure Power BI reports. And I hope that last demo has done its job. The next one is around how to keep your reports refreshed, because it's kind of crucial really. If you've got data that's always changing, that Power BI is as close to live as what you need it to be. So this demo is all about answering that questions. What options are available in Excel? What options are available in Power BI? Don't forget, once you've watched this, if you stick around, I am going to give you the beginner's guide to Power BI ebook. So if you can just stick with the next one, then we're getting really close to actually being able to get hold of that ebook for you, and I'll put the link in. Hope you enjoy this refreshing one. One really important aspect when you're thinking about your reports and your dashboards is how current and how fresh your data is. Because in most cases, you're going to want to have as up-to-date data as you possibly can. For example, there's many companies that will probably have a board meeting on a Monday lunch with the senior management team, and it could be sales and marketing, for example, and you want all of your sales rep in there, and they need to be able to show how well the sales done in the previous week. You might have several other scenarios like that. So it's important that a leading edge tool like Power BI gives you the ability to refresh your data. And the other aspect of that is many times your dashboards will bring in data from different systems. Even a small company like Cloud 365, we have a plethora of third-party systems out there that we like to bring our data into, so we can see like the health of the company effectively. It's not all in an Excel spreadsheet, it's all over the place. And the larger the company you get, you'll probably have hundreds of data sources that need to be refreshed. So luckily, Power BI has a brilliant way of actually doing this, and it depends upon your license. So if you've got the Pro license, then you have the ability to refresh your data sources 8 times a day. If you buy a more expensive plan, per capacity plan, then you're looking at 48 refreshes a day. So Power BI's got you covered. But before I just show you how you actually go in and set that schedule up so you can refresh your data, it's worth mentioning that there are a couple of options out there. There's actually 4, but I'll talk about 3. You've got direct query. So your reports can actually query the data directly from your backend data sources. And in that scenario, you don't have to think about refreshing because it's actually grabbing the data at the time you run the reports. So that's one. So you don't have to worry about refresh because you know it's always up to date. The downside of that is it can tend to be, depending on your backend, it can tend to be a little slow because obviously if Power BI can import the data into its own internal, highly performant cache data set, then it's going to be much quicker than if you're going across to a web service in a different country and pulling the data in. So that's direct query. The other one is import. So import is the one I've been talking about where you've got data sets that serve your reporting visuals and you need to bring that data in. So these are the ones I'll show you in a second. But before we head over there is something also called streaming data sets. And a streaming data set allows you to push your data in. So what you can do is you can bind Power BI to your streaming data set, just like you can a normal dashboard, and you can push that data in. And the way that you do it, and we've actually got a video on our community about this, is one way you can do that is use a tool called Power Automate. Now, Power Automate is actually part of the Power Platform. And what Power Automate does, I like to think of it as the glue between the systems. So, for example, if you've got Microsoft Forms out on the internet and you're asking people to register for your event, and you've got a dashboard where you want to be able to show how many people by country have registered for your event over time, you need that to be really, really fast and up to date. What you can do is you can have Microsoft Forms here, and then as soon as a response comes in, you can then say, Power Automate, when that response comes in, please go and put the registration value, the fact that this person is registered in this country, and push it into the streaming data set that Power BI is bound to. So that's the other way you can push the data in. Like I say, if you do join the Academy, we have a great video on that because John Mandeville, one of the colleagues of mine, has actually done a whole demonstration of how you take advantage of that. So let's think about how to refresh the data. So if you look at my screen now, so just to show you how I got here, I'll click off here and we'll go back into Power BI. And we go into Workspaces, Power BI Demo, and then you're going to see here your dashboards, your reports, your data sets, and probably a few other things. So the data set we're interested in is the athletes webinar data set. So I've clicked the wrong one there, so I'm going to go into this one. And if you go down to settings and you scroll down to the area that says scheduled refresh, what you can do is you can say, configure a data refresh to import data from the data source into the dataset. And there's obviously a link to learn more about what they're talking about here. You can pick a frequency, so either weekly or daily. You can't pick hourly or minutely, and that's because it's all based on your license. And if you think about what Microsoft's having to do, really, if you were to configure this every minute, for example, some of these data sets are massive, and Microsoft uses a lot of processing power to go to that data set and says, is there any changes, and bring that data in. So what they've had to do is they've had to limit the amount of data refreshes you can do based on your license. So if you've got Power BI Pro license, you can have up to 8 refreshes. So that means you can have 8 refreshes in one day. And if you want to go and add it, say, every 4 hours, you just go and pick here. So I want a data refresh coming in at 4 a.m. and then I want another one coming in at 7 a.m. and yeah, let's have another one coming in at 11 a.m. So that would cause the Power BI service to go to your backend data source, grab any new data and import it into Power BI. If you've got some of the capacity plans, the premium licenses, you can have up to 48 refreshes in a day. So that's obviously once every half hour. And I think that's going to be good enough for most scenarios. If you really do need to see bang up to date, then consider using streaming data sets. But it's really easy to use. You can get notifications when these data sets fail, as you can see. And that's effectively all you need to do. You can also go into the Power BI report builder, so the Power BI dashboard, and you can click on the refresh button in there, which will cause refreshes to happen. So there is a lot more to it. There's great documentation out there on the Microsoft site. In fact, if you click this link here, this article is fantastic. It's going to tell you everything you ever need to do, about refreshing. So I suggest you just go and have a read of that as well if you want to know much more information. I just wanted to make the point that refreshing your data is a really important part of your function of your reporting tool. So all you need to know is Power BI's got you covered. If you want to think about Excel, because obviously this whole webinar is talking about Excel versus Power BI, then obviously Excel, the data is stored in the spreadsheet. In most cases, you can do things like data connections out from Excel to go and pull the data in, but they require you to click the refresh button inside of Excel. And then if you've got multiple copies of that Excel file across, you've shared it with all your colleagues, they're all going to have to go and click refresh as well. So Excel does do something similar, but there's no automatic refresh frequency. The only thing you could do in Excel, actually, you could use Power Automate. So that example before where I mentioned you've got this event and you want people to be able to register for the event out on the internet in Microsoft Forms, Power BI could then go and push that response, the fact that somebody's registered, into your spreadsheet. So you could do it that way as well. So there are options out there for Excel, but Power BI obviously just gives you the schedule, which is really nice. Anyway, I hope that's helped, and I hope when you do consider using Power BI, you'll consider thinking about how I'm going to update my data, and this video will come to your mind and go, yes, that was really useful. Hooray, we finished! So this is a very quick comparison summary of everything I've shown you. You can grab hold of this if you like. You've just messaged me if you'd like a copy of this. It's just a rundown of all of the differences between Excel and Power BI across those 6 reasons. I'm not going to go into those now because I'm conscious that we've been going for an hour. So lastly, myths. So firstly, Power BI is too hard to install. I've knocked up a quick video which just shows you how easy it is to install. You can do it in a couple of minutes, and most of the time it takes is waiting for the download to come. It's just about 400 meg or something. So let's get started and just show you how quickly it is for you to install, because I really do hope at the end of this you do follow these steps, install it, connect it up to your Excel and get going with Power BI. So let's just watch that quickly. Okay, so in this short video, I just want to show you how easy it is to get Power BI Desktop. And as a reminder, Power BI Desktop is the Windows application that you download that allows you to view and author reports. So all you need to do is go to Bing or Google and do Power BI Desktop download. And then you want to pick this link here. And then I'm going to pick under Microsoft Power BI Desktop, I'm going to pick Advanced Download Options. The top one would have allowed you to download it from the Windows Store, but I want to be able to pick 32-bit versus 64-bit. So I'm going to pick English, and then the next screen I'm confronted with is I've got the option of 64-bit or 32-bit. If you're not sure what your operating system is running at, all you need to do is bring up Control Panel and go to System, and then look under System Type here, where I highlight there, it says 64-bit operating system. So I know I'm on 64-bit. That might also say 32-bit, obviously. So once you know that, you go back to here. I'm going to pick 64-bit, which equates to my operating system. Click Next. And what will happen now is that's starting to download. It's 383 meg at the current time of recording this, which is the 18th of August. Obviously, as they improve the product, that might change, but currently it's not too big. And now that's just going to do some verification. Now I can click on Open the File. Just give that a moment to catch up. Don't click that more than once, as I've done several times. Then you end up with lots of installers. So pick my language, which is English. Next. And this is just a case now of next. Just wait for that to catch up. Rightio, next. I accept the license agreement, next. Want to create a desktop shortcut? Yeah, why not? Install. Now that'll take 3 to 4 minutes, so I'll pause the video now and then I'll be right back with you when that's finished. Right, so that did take about 3 minutes. So what I'm going to do now, because I've got Launch Microsoft Power BI Desktop checked, I'm going to click Keep That Checked and click Finish. And then hopefully, in a couple of seconds, we're going to see the Power BI splash screen pop up. And while it's doing that, let's close these browsers down. There we go. As you can see, it's now coming up. And there we go. We now have Power BI Desktop installed. Okay, so I hope you found the content that you've been watching really useful. And more importantly, I hope you're really, truly excited about starting to learn Power BI. And I really do hope you think that I've got to get rid of my Excel skills and I need to move to Power BI. That's not the case at all. They complement each other beautifully. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, it's really a very common use case to bring your Excel data into Power BI. Power BI is all about the reporting side of it, so they are complementary. If you do want to continue your learning journey now and you want to get a really, really great grounding that takes you from novice to fully competent in Power BI, then I really strongly recommend you stay around for a couple of minutes because we've got an incredible offer coming up. So we run the Cloud 365 Academy. It launched in March 2022, so it's not very old, but we're already at 3,000 members. So we've got members in there that are enjoying not only Power BI content, but they're also learning the rest of the Power Platform and also technologies like Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. It's the place where we've placed all of our training content so that people can enjoy it going forward. So it's a site like Facebook without the ads, where you log in, access all the content, and you can also network and ask questions with your peers because we've now got 3,000 members nearly in there. So what is Nick's Workshop? Nick's Workshop's already been loaded into the Cloud 365 Academy. And what Nick does is he's covered for nearly 5 hours data modeling for a start. So data modeling, as I've mentioned in previous video, data modeling is really important because imagine you've got an Excel spreadsheet and you want to bring that Excel spreadsheet as a data source over into Power BI. What that happens under the scenes is that gets put into a model. And if you've got other data sources like SQL Server that you bring in at the same time, that will also get put into the same model. So it's really important you give Power BI some great tips, hints, and tell it things like, columns. This column here is a date, time column, and this column is an integer, etc. It'll do its best guess, but you need to tell it these things. And you need to do this concept of cleaning your data. And if you do that, and I promise it's not hard, and Nick teaches it really well, but if you do that, it just makes your reports so much easier to build because your data's more fit for purpose from when you start creating your reports. So Nick teaches you all about that and how to clean your data. Then he goes into a full whistle-stop tour of all the fundamentals of Power BI. So he teaches you everything you need to learn to get started with Power BI. So if you imagine you've got like a little dude sat on your shoulder as you were sat using Power BI, that would be Nick teaching you how to navigate around the Power BI desktop, what the services are, and also teaching you more in depth of some of the concepts I've been telling you about previously. And obviously, the key thing you really want to do when you learn Power BI is you want to get up and running really quickly. So Nick goes through, he teaches you how to create a report, and then once you get into the Cloud 365 Academy, into Nick's Workshop, you can also download the data sets that he teaches to go along. So you can actually do this as you're going along and follow along as Nick's teaching you. And there's obviously much, much more in there. So as I've mentioned, you also, as part of this really special offer, you're going to get lifetime access to the Cloud 365 Academy. So as soon as you've purchased, you're going to log into the Academy, you'll get Nick's Workshop, but you're also going to get 318 training sessions from 10 of our previous virtual summits. And we've even got in there an Excel and Power BI summit, so you'll get all of the content of that. You'll get all of our beginner training. So obviously, if you don't understand what Power Automate and Power Apps is, there's beginner content there, there's beginner content on SharePoint. So we've got all of Microsoft 365 pretty well covered. You can also network with your peers, ask questions of us. There's also courses in there, which I think I've got a slide on. Yes, I do have a slide. So we've also realized there's a need out there to create really short micro courses. They're 20 minutes long, and the purpose of them is, if you don't know anything, you're struggling to work out what Microsoft 365 is, take the Microsoft 365 micro course, and you'll have a really good whistle-stop tour of all of the big products that you need to know. So it's like all the headline features and where you'd use what. If you do pass that one, there's also a great badge to get hold of inside of the Cloud 365 Academy. We've just done exactly the same for the SharePoint foundations, and we're going to do the same for all of the products. So you can expect Power BI to be done. Power Automate, Power Apps are going to be in progress as well. So look out for these micro courses that get dropped in, because if you've got 20 minutes spare, they're a great way to go put some light bulbs in your head. So you'll get those as well. Right, so how much is it? So if you added up everything I've mentioned today, which is Collab 365 Academy access, the courses, and more importantly, the Power BI Fundamentals Workshop and the 318 sessions, it'd be $391. However, today we're offering it at $27. Now, you're probably going to ask, why is that so low? Well, the reason being is simply because if we feel we do a great deal with you now, because you've probably never heard of Collab 365 and you certainly won't trust us by this stage. So our thinking is, how can we get you trained up on Power BI as quickly as possible and also gain that trust? Because over time, over the next few years, we're going to be releasing lots more workshops. So we're going to be doing more advanced and go deeper into Power BI. And at some point you might go, well, I actually trust these guys and I would like to purchase that. So it's our way of getting you into the academy, getting you to trust us and getting you the skills you need straight up. So we've purposely priced it so low just to excite you and get you in there. So once again, it's only $27. There'll be a button around this video somewhere, which has probably got a countdown on it. Click that. And then what will happen next, you'll go into the sales page that will tell you everything that is Nick covers in his workshop and a little bit about the academy. And if you feel you want to purchase that stage, you just click the red button, takes you to the checkout, fill the checkout in, and then it takes around about 5 minutes to get you into the academy. Once you've got your username and password, get in, and then you'll be able to get to the 318 sessions, start posting on the academy, and then also, more importantly, get your Power BI workshop and start learning Power BI. So that's it from me. I really do hope I can give you a warm welcome and a virtual handshake when you come into the Collab 365 Academy, and I hope to see you in there. See you later. Bye-bye.